Captain Vexhai moved his forearms in careful patterns as he studied the holographic display floating before him. The bridge of the Zephyrian ship Harmony's Edge was quiet, except for the soft humming of machines. His crew worked at their stations, with the calm focus that came from years of peaceful exploration. "Captain," called Science Officer Cathara from her position near the main scanner. Her voice carried the musical tone that all Zephyrians had when they spoke. "We have detected something unusual at the edge of this star system." Vexhai turned, his large dark eyes toward her. His blue-green skin changed color slightly, showing his interest. "What kind of unusual?" "A ship, sir, but not from any species we know." Cathara's tentacles moved across her control panel. "It appears to be drifting. No active engines or weapons that I can detect." The captain walked over to her station. His feet made no sound on the soft floor of the bridge. The Zephyrians had learned long ago that noise was unnecessary and often harmful to clear thinking. "Show me," he said. The main screen filled with an image of the unknown vessel. Vexhai studied it carefully. The ship was much smaller than his own, maybe 1/10 the size. But something about its design made him uncomfortable. Where Zephyrian ships were smooth and curved like flowing water, this vessel had sharp angles and hard edges. It looked like it was built for fighting. "How far away?" he asked. "Approximately 2 light hours from our current position," Cathara replied. "The ship appears to be powered down, but life signs suggest it is still inhabited." Vexhai considered this. In his 300 years of life, he had encountered 47 different intelligent species. Some were friendly, some were cautious, and a few were hostile. But all of them had one thing in common. They responded well to the Zephyrian approach of careful, respectful first contact. "What can you tell me about the species?" he asked. Cathara's tentacles moved again. "Basic scans show they are carbon-based life forms, bipedal. They seem to breathe oxygen and water vapor. Their technology level appears to be moderate." "Moderate how?" "Their engines use fusion power, which is efficient but not advanced. Their hull is made of metal alloys that we stopped using 5,000 years ago. But..." She paused. "But what?" "Their weapon systems are extensive, Captain. Very extensive." Vexhai felt his skin color shift to a deeper blue, which showed concern among his people. "Weapons?" "Yes, sir. The ship has multiple weapon ports. Energy weapons, projectile weapons, and what appears to be explosive devices. Many explosive devices." This was troubling news. In the Zephyrian Confederacy, weapons were mostly used for asteroid mining and space construction. The idea of a ship designed primarily for fighting was foreign to them. "Perhaps they live in a dangerous part of space," suggested Navigator Plexen from his station. "Some species must defend themselves from natural threats." "Perhaps," Vexhai agreed, but he was not convinced. The ship's design spoke of a species that had spent considerable time thinking about how to destroy other ships. "Captain," Cathara said, "I recommend we perform a deep scan before making contact. If this species is aggressive, we should know what we are dealing with." Vexhai nodded. The deep scan was a standard procedure for unknown species. It could read not just the physical properties of the ship and its crew, but also basic thought patterns and emotional states. This information helped the Zephyrians understand how to approach new species in a way that would not frighten or anger them. "Very well," he said. "Begin the deep scan. But be careful not to alert them to our presence. We do not want to seem threatening." "Yes, sir." Cathara began working at her station. "Initiating deep scan protocols now." The bridge became even quieter as the crew focused on their work. The deep scan was a delicate process that required precise control of their advanced sensors. The Zephyrians had developed this technology over thousands of years of peaceful contact with other species. "Initial results coming in," Cathara reported after several minutes. "The species appears to be called humans. They have 2 arms, 2 legs, and think with their heads, similar to many other species we have encountered." "What about their emotional state? asked Vexhai. That is interesting, Captain. They seem to be calm but alert, not afraid or angry. They appear to be professional. Professional? Yes, sir. Their thoughts are organized and focused. They seem to be following established procedures for whatever they are doing. This was reassuring to Vexhai. Species that followed procedures were usually reasonable and could be talked to peacefully. What are they doing? He asked. Kethara's tentacles moved more quickly across her controls. They appear to be on some kind of patrol mission. They are monitoring this area of space and checking on various locations. A patrol? Are they looking for threats? It appears so, Captain. But the strange thing is that they do not seem to be looking for threats to themselves. They seem to be looking for threats to others. Vexhai's skin color shifted again. This was unexpected. Most species he had encountered were primarily concerned with their own safety and interests. Others? What others? I am reading references to trade ships, colony transports, and civilian vessels. It appears these humans are patrolling this area to protect other ships that might pass through. This was very interesting news. A warrior species that used its strength to protect others rather than conquer them was unusual in the galaxy. Continue the scan, Vexhai ordered. I want to know more about these humans before we make contact. Yes, sir. Increasing scan depth now. As the scanners worked their way deeper into the human ship, the crew of the Harmony's Edge had no idea what they were about to discover. They thought they were conducting a routine first contact scan of a moderately advanced species. They had no way of knowing that they were about to peer into the mind of a species that had spent its entire existence fighting for survival. A species that had turned warfare into a science and death into an art form. A species that had created weapons capable of destroying worlds, but somehow still chose to use those weapons to protect the innocent. Captain, Kethara said, her voice carrying a note of confusion. I am getting some very unusual readings. What kind of unusual? The scan is revealing information about their history and culture, and it is extensive. How extensive? Very extensive, sir. These humans appear to have detailed records going back thousands of years, and most of it seems to be about conflict. Vexhai moved closer to her station. What kind of conflict? All kinds, Captain. Wars between different groups of humans. Wars against their environment. Wars against disease and natural disasters. It seems like this species has been fighting constantly for their entire recorded history. The captain felt a chill run through his body. A species that had been at war for thousands of years would be very dangerous indeed. But Captain, Kethara continued, there is something else, something that does not make sense. What? According to their records, they also have concepts of peace, mercy, and protection. They have rules about how to fight wars and how to treat prisoners. They rebuild their enemies after defeating them. She paused, clearly confused. They what? They appear to have turned compassion into a military strategy, sir. Vexhai stared at the screen, trying to understand what his science officer had just told him. A species that was both incredibly violent and incredibly compassionate was something he had never encountered before. Continue the scan, he said quietly. I think we need to learn much more about these humans. The deep scan continued to work its way through the human ship. On the bridge of the Harmony's Edge, the Zephyrian crew watched their screens with growing amazement and fear. What they were seeing challenged everything they thought they knew about intelligent life in the galaxy. Captain, Kethara said, her voice shaking slightly. The scan has connected to their main computer systems. We are now accessing their historical and cultural databases. Show me what you have found, Vexhai replied. The main screen filled with images and data from human history. At first it looked normal enough. Pictures of humans living in small groups, farming, building simple tools, but then the images changed. Humans fighting with sticks and stones. Humans fighting with metal swords and shields. Humans fighting with explosive weapons that could destroy entire cities. The progression was clear and terrifying. How long have they been fighting? Asked Navigator Plexun. Kethara checked her readings. According to their records, humans have been engaged in some form of warfare for at least 10,000 years, and that is just their recorded history. 10,000 years? Vex-High could not believe what he was hearing. Continuously? It appears so, Captain. They have fought wars over territory, resources, ideas, and religion. They have fought wars to conquer and wars to defend. They have fought wars to free slaves and wars to stop other wars. The screen showed more images. Massive armies facing each other across battlefields. Cities burning. Weapons that could kill millions of people at once. But mixed in with these terrible images were others that confused the Zephyrians. Humans helping, wounded enemies. Humans sharing food with prisoners. Humans rebuilding cities they had destroyed. Humans creating laws to limit the damage of war. "I do not understand," said Communications Officer Irelti. "They create weapons to destroy each other, but also rules to protect each other." Cathara was studying the data streams. "It appears that humans have developed what they call rules of war. They have agreed among themselves about how to fight, in ways that cause less harm to innocent people." "They have rules for fighting?" Vex-High asked. "Yes, Captain. They are not allowed to attack hospitals or schools. They must treat prisoners with respect. They cannot use certain types of weapons that cause too much suffering. They even have rules about protecting the environment during wars." This was the most confusing thing the Zephyrians had ever encountered. A species that was clearly designed for war, but that also tried to limit the damage of war. "What about their current military?" Vex-High asked. The screen changed to show images of modern human military forces. The Zephyrians stared in shock at what they saw. Massive ships that could travel between stars and carry thousands of fighters. Weapons that could destroy planets. Soldiers who were trained from childhood to be perfect fighting machines. But again, there were confusing elements mixed in. "Captain," Cathara said slowly, "their military forces spend more time on rescue missions than on fighting." "Rescue missions?" "Yes, sir. According to their records, human military units respond to natural disasters, search for lost ships, deliver food to hungry populations, and provide medical care to anyone who needs it. They seem to use their military power mostly to help people." Communications. Officer Irelti looked up from her station. "Captain, I am reading something very strange in their communications protocols." "What kind of strange?" "They have a universal distress signal. Any ship in trouble can send this signal, and nearby human military ships are required to respond immediately, even if the ship belongs to an enemy." Vex-High felt his skin color shift to deep purple, which indicated complete confusion among his people. "They help their enemies?" "According to their laws, Captain, anyone in space who needs help is no longer an enemy. They become someone who needs to be saved." The captain walked around the bridge, trying to process this information. In his 300 years of life, he had never encountered anything like this. The humans seemed to be the most dangerous species he had ever seen, but also potentially the most helpful. "Show me their weapons," he said finally. The screen filled with technical specifications that made the Zephyrian crew gasp in fear. The humans had created devices that could crack planets in half. They had weapons that could destroy entire solar systems. They had developed ways to kill that were so efficient and complete that they frightened even themselves. "Captain," Cathara whispered, "according to these records, humans have weapons that could destroy all life in the galaxy." "All life?" "Yes, sir. They have weapons that can make stars explode. They have biological weapons that can kill every living thing on a planet. They have machines that can turn entire worlds into lifeless rocks." The bridge was completely silent as this information sank in. The Zephyrians were looking at a species that had the power to end all life everywhere. "But Captain," Cathara continued, "they have never used these weapons." "Never?" "No, sir. According to their records, they built these terrible weapons to prevent wars, not to fight them. They call it deterrence. The idea is that if everyone knows how terrible a war would be, no one will start one. And it works?" "It appears to, Captain. Humans have not had a major war between their own groups for over a century. They use the threat of complete destruction to keep peace. Navigator Plexen looked up from his station. Captain, I am reading something about their ship designs. What about them? Human warships are not just weapons platforms. They are also designed to carry supplies, provide medical care, and transport civilians to safety. Every human military ship can function as a hospital, a cargo hauler, or a rescue vessel. The screen showed diagrams of human ship designs. The Zephyrians could see that every weapon system could be quickly converted to serve peaceful purposes. Missile launchers could launch supply pods. Gun turrets could be replaced with rescue equipment. Fighter bays could be turned into medical centers. They build their war machines to serve peace, Vexhai said quietly. Yes, sir, Cathara replied. And there is more. Human military personnel are trained not just to fight but to build, heal, teach, and protect. They are soldiers, engineers, doctors, and teachers all at the same time. The captain looked at the human ship on his screen. It was still drifting peacefully through space, its crew unaware that they were being studied. To his eyes, it now looked less like a weapon and more like a tool that could be used for many different purposes. What about their current mission? He asked. Cathara checked her readings again. They are on patrol, but not looking for enemies. They are checking on trade routes to make sure they are safe for civilian ships. They are monitoring for pirates, natural hazards, and ships in distress. Pirates? Yes, Captain. There are apparently human criminals who attack innocent ships. The military hunts these pirates to protect trade and travel. So humans fight other humans to protect non-humans? It appears so, sir. Vexhai stood quietly for a long moment, trying to understand what he had learned. The humans were clearly the most dangerous species in the galaxy. They had weapons that could destroy everything and the knowledge to use them effectively, but they seemed to use this terrible power primarily to protect others. Continue the scan, he said finally. Focus on the ship's crew. I want to understand the individuals, not just the species. Yes, sir. Focusing on individual crew members now. As the scan began to probe the minds of the human crew, none of the Zephyrians realized that they were about to discover something even more frightening than humanity's weapons. They were about to discover the human heart. The deep scan focused on the human ship's command center. Captain Vexhai watched as the scanners identified the ship's leader, a human female named Sarah Chen. What the Zephyrians found in her mind would change their understanding of humans, forever. I have located their captain, Cathara reported. Shall I begin the individual mind scan? Yes, Vexhai replied. But be careful. We want to understand her without causing any harm. The scanners reached into Captain Chen's mind with delicate precision. At first, the readings were what the Zephyrians expected from a military leader. Tactical knowledge, command procedures, and strategic thinking filled her thoughts, but then something unexpected appeared on the screens. Captain, Cathara said with confusion in her voice, I am reading emotional patterns that do not match her military role. What kind of patterns? Love, sir. Deep love for her crew members. She thinks of them as family, not just soldiers under her command. The main screen showed images from Captain Chen's memories. The Zephyrians saw her eating meals with her crew, laughing at their jokes and celebrating their personal achievements. They saw her visiting sick crew members in the medical bay and writing personal letters to their families. She cares about each individual person on her ship, Navigator Plexen observed. But how can she send them into battle if she loves them? The scanners found the answer in Captain Chen's recent memories. 3 months earlier, her ship had received a distress call from a civilian transport carrying 30,000 colonists. The transport was under attack by a fleet of pirates. The Zephyrians watched in amazement as they saw Captain Chen's decision-making process. She knew that her ship was outnumbered 3-1. She knew that many of her crew would likely die in the battle. But she also knew that 30,000 innocent people would die if she did not act. Show me how she made her choice, Vexhai ordered. The screen displayed Captain Chen's thoughts during that critical moment. The Zephyrians could see her weighing every option, calculating every risk and considering every alternative. But underneath all the tactical thinking was something else. She looked at photos of her crew members' families. She thought about their children, their parents, their dreams for the future. She felt the weight of potentially destroying all of those futures with her decision. But then she thought about the 30,000 colonists, families who had left everything behind to start new lives, children who had never hurt anyone, elderly people who just wanted to live their remaining years in peace. Captain Chen had made her choice in less than 30 seconds. "All ships, this is Captain Chen," they heard her say in the memory. "We are moving to intercept the pirate fleet. I know the odds are not good, but those people need our help. We took an oath to protect the innocent, and today we keep that oath." The Zephyrians watched the battle that followed. Captain Chen's ship charged directly at the much larger pirate fleet. Her crew followed her orders without question, even though they all knew they might die. But Captain Chen had not ordered a simple attack. She had positioned her ship between the pirates and the civilian transport, using her own vessel as a shield. Every weapon on her ship was aimed not at destroying the pirates, but at making them retreat. She was not trying to win the battle, Communications Officer Irelti observed. She was trying to save lives. Both sides, Kithara added. Look at her targeting patterns. She aimed for pirate engines and weapons, not their life support systems. She wanted to disable them, not kill them. The battle had lasted 6 hours. Captain Chen's ship had taken heavy damage, and 43 of her crew members had died. But the civilian transport had escaped safely, and most of the pirates had survived to be captured. The Zephyrians then saw what Captain Chen did after the battle. She had personally visited every wounded crew member. She had written individual letters to the families of those who died. She had attended every funeral and looked each grieving family member in the eye. "I am sorry for your loss," they heard her say to a young widow. "Your husband saved 30,000 lives today. He died as a hero, and his sacrifice will never be forgotten." But the scanners also showed Captain Chen's private moments after the battle. Alone in her quarters, she had cried for hours. She had stared at the photos of her dead crew members and blamed herself for their deaths. 43 people trusted me with their lives," she had whispered to herself. 43 people are dead because of my decision. Yet when morning came, she had put on her uniform and returned to duty. She had made peace with her choice because she knew it was the right one. "This is not the mind of a killer," Bexhai said quietly. "This is the mind of a protector." The scanners continued to explore Captain Chen's memories. They found dozens of similar decisions. Times when she had risked her ship and crew to save others. Times when she had chosen the harder path because it was the right path. They found memories of her childhood, when she had decided to join the military not for glory or adventure, but because she wanted to protect people who could not protect themselves. They found memories of her training, where she had learned not just how to fight, but why to fight. Her instructors had taught her that true strength was not the ability to destroy, but the wisdom to know when destruction was necessary and when it was not. They found memories of her first command, when she had realized that every order she gave could mean life or death for real people with real families and real dreams. "She carries the weight of every decision," Kithara observed. "Every life lost under her command becomes part of her burden. But she continues to serve," Navigator Plexen added. "Despite the pain, she continues to protect others." The scanners showed them Captain Chen's current thoughts. She was reviewing patrol routes and checking on her crew's welfare. She was thinking about a birthday party for one of her junior officers. She was worrying about a crew member whose wife was sick back home. But underneath all of these everyday concerns was a constant readiness. Captain Chen's mind was always prepared for the moment when she might need to make another impossible choice, when she might need to sacrifice herself and her crew to save others. "Captain," Kethara said with wonder in her voice, "I am reading something extraordinary in her psychological profile." "What?" "She has no fear of death, sir, but she is terrified of failing to protect others." Vexahai stared at the screen. He was looking at a being who was more afraid of letting others die than of dying herself. It was a mindset completely foreign to his peaceful species. "What about the rest of the crew?" he asked. The scanners moved to other human minds. What they found was similar to their captain. Men and women who had volunteered to risk their lives protecting others. People who could have chosen safe, comfortable lives, but had instead chosen danger and responsibility. They found an engineer who had left a high-paying job to serve on a warship because he wanted to help keep peace in the galaxy. They found a doctor who had turned down prestigious positions to provide medical care to anyone who needed it, regardless of their species or politics. They found soldiers who wrote letters to their children every day, teaching them to be kind and compassionate. They found officers who spent their free time learning about different cultures so they could better help alien species. Every single person on this ship chose to be here, Cathara reported. They are all volunteers who gave up easier lives to serve others. But they are so young, Communications Officer Irelti observed. Many of them are barely adults by human standards. The scanners showed them the crew's ages. Most were between 20 and 40 human years old. They had their whole lives ahead of them, but they had chosen to spend those lives in service to others. They know they might die, Vexhai said, but they serve anyway. Yes, Captain, and according to their psychological profiles, they would make the same choice again even knowing the risks. Vexhai looked at the human ship with new eyes. It was not just a weapon drifting through space. It was a vessel full of people who had chosen to dedicate their lives to protecting others. People who faced death with courage and carried the burden of difficult decisions with grace. These humans, he said quietly, they are not what I expected. What do we do now, Captain? Asked Navigator Plexon. Vexhai considered the question carefully. The humans were certainly dangerous, but they seemed to use their danger in service of good. They were warriors, but they were warriors with purpose and honor. Continue the scan, he decided. I want to know everything about these humans before we make contact. The information from the deep scan spread quickly through the Harmony's edge. As more Zephyrian crew members learned about the humans, a sense of deep unease settled over the ship. Within hours, emergency communications were sent to the Confederacy. High Command Admiral Quellinos received the message at the capital world of Zephyria Prime. He was an old Zephyrian, nearly 500 years old, and had overseen first contact with more species than anyone else alive. But as he read the report from Captain Vexhai, his skin turned the deep black color that indicated extreme alarm. Bring me the full scan data immediately, he ordered his staff. Within minutes, the complete human database was being analyzed by the best minds in the Confederacy. What they found sent shockwaves through their peaceful civilization. Sir, reported Chief Analyst Nexara, if this data is accurate, we are looking at the most dangerous species the galaxy has ever produced. Explain, Admiral Quelnos said. The analyst's tentacles moved nervously as she spoke. The humans have been fighting continuously for their entire recorded history. But they have not just been fighting randomly. They have been systematically perfecting the art of warfare. The main screen in the command center filled with human military data. The Zephyrians saw weapons that could destroy stars, strategies that could conquer entire galactic sectors, and technologies that could turn peaceful worlds into battlefields. They have created something they call total war, Nexara continued. This is a concept where an entire species mobilizes every resource for conflict. Every adult becomes a soldier. Every factory becomes a weapons manufacturer. Every decision is made with warfare in mind. Have they ever implemented this total war? The Admiral asked. Yes, sir. Multiple times throughout their history. When faced with what they perceive as an existential threat, humans transform their entire civilization into a war machine. Admiral Quelnos felt a chill run through his body. The Zephyrian Confederacy had never encountered anything like this. Most species fought when necessary, but the idea of turning an entire civilization into an instrument of war was horrifying. What kind of threats caused them to do this? He asked. Nexara checked her data. Various things, sir. Sometimes other. Groups of humans who threatened their way of life. Sometimes natural disasters that required massive coordinated efforts. Sometimes ideological conflicts where they believed their fundamental values were under attack. And they won these total wars? Every single one, sir. When humans decide that something must be destroyed, they appear to be unstoppable. The Admiral walked around the command center, trying to process this information. He was looking at a species that could apparently mobilize entire planets for warfare, and had never lost when they did so. What about their current military capabilities, he asked. Another analyst, Keksuri, stepped forward. Sir, according to the scan data, what we are seeing is just a small patrol ship. The humans have entire fleets of vessels much larger and more powerful than the one Captain Vexhai encountered. How much larger? Their largest warships are the size of small moons, sir. They carry thousands of fighters and enough firepower to sterilize entire planets. They have mobile battle stations that can construct new weapons while in combat. They have ships that can hide from any sensor and strike without warning. Admiral Quelnos sat down heavily in his command chair. How many of these ships do they have? Thousands, sir. Perhaps tens of thousands. The scan data suggests that the human military is larger than the combined forces of the entire Confederacy. This was devastating news. The Zephyrian Confederacy was made up of 43 peaceful species, but their combined military forces were designed mainly for exploration and defense against natural hazards. They had never needed to prepare for war against a species like the humans. There is more, sir, Nexara said quietly. More? The humans have weapons that we do not understand, devices that can manipulate time and space, weapons that can destroy matter at the atomic level. They have even created something they call planet crackers that can split worlds in half. The command center was completely silent as this information sank in. The Zephyrians were facing a species that possessed weapons beyond their comprehension. But Admiral, Keksuri said, there is something strange about these weapons. What do you mean? According to the human records, they have never used their most powerful weapons in actual combat. They build them, test them, and then store them away. Why would they create weapons they do not intend to use? It appears to be part of their strategy, sir. They create weapons so terrible that other humans are afraid to fight them. They call it deterrence. The idea is that the threat of complete destruction prevents wars from starting. Admiral Quelnos considered this. It was a twisted kind of logic, but it seemed to work for the humans. What about their expansion patterns, he asked. Chief Analyst Nexara brought up a galactic map showing human territory. They have expanded to 14 star systems over the past 200 years, but their expansion appears to be defensive in nature. Defensive? Yes, sir. They establish colonies and military bases to protect trade routes and provide safe harbors for ships in distress. They do not appear to be conquering territory for its own sake. What about the species they have encountered? That is perhaps the most confusing part of the data, sir. The humans have made contact with 7 other species. They are currently at peace with 5 of them, have trade agreements with 3, and are actively protecting 2 from various threats. Admiral Quelnos was surprised by this. A species with such military power could easily have conquered other civilizations. They have also fought 2 wars against species that attacked them. First, Nexara continued, in both cases they defeated their enemies completely, but then helped them rebuild their civilizations afterward. They helped their enemies? Yes, sir. Human records show extensive programs to provide food, medical care, and technology to species they had defeated in war. They seem to believe that turning enemies into friends is more effective than simply destroying them. This was the most confusing aspect of human behavior that the Zephyrians had discovered. A species that could wage total war, but chose to show mercy to defeated enemies. Admiral, Keksuri said, I believe we need to consider the possibility that the humans, while dangerous, may not be a threat to peaceful species. Explain your reasoning. All of their wars appear to have been defensive or protective in nature. They fight when attacked, or when they perceive a threat to innocent life. But they do not seem to fight for conquest or resources. Admiral Quelnos studied the data on his screens. The evidence supported this conclusion, but he was still troubled by what he had learned. Even if they are not aggressive by nature, he said, they possess the power to destroy our entire civilization if they choose to. Yes, sir. But they also possess the power to protect our civilization if they choose to do that instead, the Admiral considered this statement. The humans could indeed be either the greatest threat or the greatest protector the galaxy had ever seen. "What are the options?" he asked his staff. "Three possibilities, sir," Nexara replied. "First, we could attempt to eliminate the human threat before they expand further into the galaxy. What would that require? A coordinated attack by the entire Confederacy fleet, using every weapon we possess. Even then, success would not be guaranteed, and the cost would be enormous. Second option? We could avoid human space entirely and hope they do not expand in our direction. And the third option? We could attempt peaceful contact and try to establish friendly relations. Admiral Quelnos weighed each choice carefully. Attacking the humans would likely result in the destruction of both civilizations. Avoiding them was only a temporary solution. That left only one real option. "What does Captain Vexhai recommend?" he asked. "He requests permission to attempt first contact, sir. He believes the humans may be reasonable if approached properly." The Admiral made his decision. "Very well. Authorize Captain Vexhai to make contact, but have our entire fleet ready for immediate action if things go wrong." "Yes, sir." As the orders were transmitted back to the Harmony's edge, Admiral Quelnos hoped he was making the right choice. The fate of the entire Confederacy might depend on how the humans responded to their first contact with alien life. The Zephyrians had no way of knowing that humans had been dreaming of this moment for thousands of years, and that their response would surprise everyone involved. Captain Vexhai received the authorization from Admiral Quelnos with mixed feelings. He had spent days studying the humans through the deep scan, and what he had learned both fascinated and terrified him. Now he had to make the most important decision of his long life. "Captain," Cathara said from her station, "the human ship is still on its patrol route. They appear to be completely unaware of our presence." "Good," Vexhai replied. "That gives us time to plan our approach carefully." He had learned enough about humans to know that first impressions would be crucial. These were not a species that responded well to surprises or perceived threats, but they seemed to respect directness and honesty. "Communications, prepare a standard first contact message," he ordered, "but keep it simple and peaceful." Communications. Officer Irelti began working at her station. "What should we tell them, Captain?" Vexhai thought about this carefully. The humans had spent their entire history preparing for conflict, but they had also spent that same time dreaming of finding other intelligent life in the universe. The scan had shown him human stories, movies, and books about meeting aliens. Most of them were filled with hope and wonder. "Tell them we come in peace," he said. "Tell them we have been watching them and are impressed by their dedication to protecting others. Tell them we would like to talk." "Yes, sir." As Urelti prepared the message, Vexhai continued to watch the human ship. Through the scanners, he could see Captain Chen on her bridge, reviewing reports and checking on her crew. She had no idea that her life was about to change forever. "Message ready, Captain," Irelti reported. "Send it." The signal crossed the space between the two ships in seconds. On the bridge of the UES Defiance, the communication officer looked up in surprise. "Captain Chen," he called, "we're receiving a transmission from an unknown source." Captain Chen turned toward him. "Unknown source?" "Yes, ma'am. The signal is coming from approximately 2 light hours away, but I don't see any ships on our scanners." Chen's training kicked in immediately. An unknown transmission could mean many things, and most of them were not good. "Put it on the main screen." The message appeared in text form on the bridge display. As Captain Chen read it, her expression changed from concern to amazement. "Greetings, brave humans of the ship Defiance. We are the Zephyrian Confederacy, a peaceful alliance of 43 species. We have been observing your patrol and are deeply impressed by your dedication to protecting innocent life. We come in peace and friendship, hoping to begin a dialogue between our civilizations. We have much to learn from each other." The bridge of the Defiance was completely silent for several seconds. Then Chen spoke. "Are you telling me we just received a message from aliens?" "It appears so, Captain," her communications officer replied. Chen felt her heart racing. This was the moment that humans had dreamed about for centuries. The moment when they would learn they were not alone in the universe. Can you locate the source of the transmission? She asked. Working on it now, Captain. The officer's fingers moved quickly across his controls. I'm getting some very faint sensor readings. There's definitely something out there, but it's using some kind of advanced stealth technology. Chen made her decision quickly. Open a channel. Let's talk to them. On the Harmony's edge, the Zephyrians watched nervously as the human ship responded to their message. Captain, Irelti reported, they are attempting to establish a communications link. Accept it, Vexhai ordered. But be ready to break contact if they show any signs of aggression. The main screen flickered, and suddenly Captain Chen's face appeared before the Zephyrian crew. It was the first time any of them had seen a human face in real time. Chen looked directly at the camera, her expression calm but alert. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earthship Defiance. We have received your message and welcome contact with your Confederacy. Vexhai stepped forward, knowing that this moment would be remembered by both species forever. Greetings, Captain Chen. I am Captain Vexhai of the Zephyrian ship Harmony's Edge. Thank you for responding to our message. Chen studied the alien face on her screen. Captain Vexhai looked somewhat like a human, but with blue-green skin, large dark eyes, and forearms. His expression seemed peaceful and intelligent. Captain Vexhai, she said, this is an historic moment for our species. We have long hoped to make contact with other intelligent life. As have we, Captain Chen. We have been exploring the galaxy for thousands of years, meeting new species and learning from them. How many species have you encountered? Chen asked. 43, including your own. Most have joined our Confederacy as peaceful partners. Chen felt a surge of excitement. The galaxy was full of intelligent life, and most of it was peaceful. This was beyond humanity's wildest dreams. We would be honored to learn more about your Confederacy, she said, and we hope we can share our own knowledge with you. Vexhai felt relieved. The humans were responding exactly as he had hoped, with curiosity and openness rather than fear or aggression. Captain Chen, may I ask about your current mission, he said. We're on routine patrol protecting civilian shipping lanes and responding to distress calls. We've been monitoring this sector for pirate activity. Pirates? Criminals who attack innocent ships for profit. We hunt them down and stop them. Vexhai nodded. This matched what they had learned from the scan. The humans use their military power to protect others, not to threaten them. Captain Chen, he said carefully, we have been observing your species for some time. We are impressed by your dedication to protecting innocent life. Chen raised an eyebrow. You've been observing us? Yes. We have advanced scanning technology that allows us to learn about new species before making contact. We wanted to understand your intentions before revealing ourselves. And what did you learn? Vexhai chose his words carefully. We learned that humans are perhaps the most capable warriors the galaxy has ever produced. But we also learned that you use this capability primarily to protect others. Chen smiled slightly. We learned long ago that our greatest strength comes from working together and protecting each other. Our military exists to defend peace, not to destroy it. That is a wise philosophy, Captain Chen. The conversation continued for over an hour. The two captains discussed their respective civilizations, their histories, and their hopes for the future. Gradually, the crews of both ships began to relax as it became clear that this meeting would be peaceful. Captain Vexhai, Chen said, eventually, I would like to invite you to visit our ship, and I would be honored to visit yours if you are willing. Vexhai felt his skin color shift to a warm golden hue, indicating happiness among his people. We would be delighted to exchange visits, Captain Chen. As the two ships moved closer together, crews on both sides prepared for humanity's first face-to-face meeting with alien life. On the Defiance, Captain Chen sent an immediate message to Earth Command, informing them of the historic contact. On the Harmony's Edge, Captain Vexhai sent his own message to Admiral Quelnos. First contact successful. The humans are everything. We hoped they would be, and nothing we feared they might be. Recommend immediate diplomatic engagement. When Captain Chen stepped aboard the Zephyrian ship 3 hours later, she became the first human to set foot on an alien vessel. When Captain Vexhai visited the Defiance, he became the first alien to experience human hospitality firsthand. Both captains were amazed by what they found. The Zephyrians discovered that human warships were also centers of learning, healing, and community. The humans discovered that alien technology could be used to explore the universe without destroying it. Within days, linguists from both species were working together to create translation protocols. Scientists were sharing research data. Engineers were comparing designs and discovering new possibilities. The meeting between the Defiance and the Harmony's Edge marked the beginning of a new era for both civilizations. The humans brought their strength, determination, and protective instincts to the Confederacy. The Zephyrians brought their wisdom, technology, and peaceful philosophy to humanity. Together, they would face challenges that neither could handle, alone. Pirates and criminals quickly learned to avoid sectors patrolled by the new Human Confederacy Alliance. Hostile species that had once threatened peaceful worlds now found themselves facing opponents who combined alien technology with human, tactical expertise. But perhaps most importantly, the Alliance proved that different species could work together for the common good. The galaxy became a safer, more peaceful place because humans had learned to temper their warrior nature with alien wisdom, and aliens had learned to defend their peaceful nature with human strength. Captain Chen would later write in her personal log, "Today we learned that we are not alone in the universe. More importantly, we learned that we have found friends among the stars. The future has never looked brighter." Captain Vexhai recorded similar thoughts. "We have found a species that shares our values but possesses capabilities we could never imagine. Together, we will build a future worthy of both our peoples." Neither captain could have predicted that. Their meeting would eventually lead to the greatest alliance in galactic history. But both knew that something wonderful had begun.